In Mexico, President Andrés Manuel López Obrador repeated his rejection of the report presented by the United States State Department on human rights. In Peru, over 390 districts in the central and southern highlands remain at risk after heavy rains in the last days. And in Chad, more than 400 rebels have been handed life sentences after a mass trial for acts of terrorism, mercenarism, recruitment of child soldiers, and assaulting the head of state. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. And we're going to begin in Mexico. President Andrés Manuel López Obrador repeated his rejection of the report presented by the United States Department of State on human rights in Mexico. In his daily morning conference, the Mexican head of state said the U.S. report is unfounded. López Obrador also accused the U.S. agency of being an instance in charge of defending conservatism in the world and questioned that, as before, some members of Mexican conservatism go to the United States to present their complaints.
Evidence. They use slander in the State Department's little office. They can reply whatever they want, but they have no proof. They are slanderers, liars. In Mexico, there's no torture. It is not like before, and they remain silent then. They never said a thing. In Mexico, there are no massacres. The state is no longer the main human rights abuser. In Mexico, freedom of expression is guaranteed.
During his speech, the Mexican president defended his government's position against the U.S. blockade on Cuba.
Of course, we are against the blockade against Cuba. We consider it a flagrant violation of human rights. George Washington used to say that no nation could take advantage of the misfortune of other peoples, that a nation is not authorized to judge another nation.
In the U.S., a student opened fire at a high school in Denver. 2 teachers were injured. 2 school administrators at Denver's high school were shot by a 17-year-old student Wednesday morning. One of the victims was undergoing surgery and the second was in stable condition at a hospital. No other injuries were reported. Police said they were still looking for the student, who has been identified as Austin Lyle. Emergency responders received calls of the shooting at around 9:50 a.m. local time. Local paramedics were already at the school treating another student who was suffering an allergic reaction. Those paramedics were able to begin treating the 2 injured administrators quickly.
We are looking for the suspect. We will find that suspect, and we will hold that suspect accountable for his actions this morning in placing everyone in danger and certainly wounding the 2 staff members who were doing their job and trying to keep everyone safe at the time.
U.S. officials investigated an explosion and fire at a chemical plant in suburban Houston on Wednesday that injured at least 1 person. Local news outlets showed a large ball of fire during the explosion, followed by large plumes of black smoke. The fire later appeared to have been extinguished. Harris County Sheriff Ed Gonzalez said in a tweet that the injured person was taken to a hospital. Officials briefly shut down roadways near the plant, but later reopened them to traffic. The facility produces cumin, an organic compound used to make a variety of things such as herbicides and pesticides, cleaning products, and auto parts. The cause of the incident is still under investigation. Workers in Uruguay called for a general strike against the pension reform sponsored by the government of Luis Lacalle Pou. Representatives of the National Convention of Workers described the reform as negative for the popular interest since it proposes to increase the retirement age from 60 to 65. Social leaders assured the parliamentarians should reject the bill in order to give space to a broad debate on how to improve the current system without harming the future of the workers. On Tuesday, Colombia's Vice President Francia Márquez denounced a new attempt of bomb attack against her in the Chocó department, where she traveled to attend an activity that honored people displaced by violence. Márquez stated that upon arriving at the airport to travel to the Chocó department, a police officer approached her and told her about the presence of explosives in the region, but she attended the activity anyway. On January 10th, her security team also found a device with over 7 kilos of explosive material on the road leading to her family residence in Yolombo, in the Cauca Valley. The device was destroyed in a controlled manner by anti-explosive personnel. The vice president insisted the government is committed to eliminate violence and that even though many people are interested in continuing sowing fear, anxiety and pain, they are committed to changing pain into joy. In Peru, more than 390 districts in the central and southern highlands remain at risk from the rains of the past few days. The National Institute of Civil Defense reports that 394 districts in the central and southern hinterlands are at risk of landslides, mudslides, or other types of mass movements, as reported by the National Center for the Assessment, Prevention and Reduction of Disaster Risk following the heavy rainfall forecast. According to the risk scenario prepared by this institution, Apurímac has the highest number of districts at very high risk. It is followed by Cusco, Puno, Ayacucho, Huánuco, Huancavelica, Junín, Pasco, and Ancash. At least 13 people have been killed and 230 injured after a 6.5 magnitude earthquake struck Afghanistan and Pakistan. In Afghanistan, in the provinces of Laghman and Takhar, health centers reported 4 deaths, including 1 child, and 70 injured. Meanwhile, authorities in Pakistan's Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province reported at least 9 deaths, 56 injuries, and structural damage in 26 homes. The quake struck the border town of Urum, close to Afghanistan's vast Hindu Kush mountain range, a center of high seismic activity and a frequent source of earthquakes in the region. In late June, a similar 5.9 magnitude earthquake struck Pakistan's eastern border provinces of Paktika and Khost. It killed more than 1,000 people, injured some 1,500, and destroyed hundreds of homes. Let's take a short break, but first remember you can follow us on TikTok at the account at teleSUR English, in which you'll be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back from the South. Swedish Parliament approved the country's entry into the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. The vote ended with 269 votes in favor, 43 abstentions, and 37 against. Now the entry remains in the hands of the Atlantic Alliance member countries, where Turkey and Hungary have not given yet their green light to Stockholm's membership. Swedish Foreign Minister Tobias Billström welcomed the vote and pointed out that NATO membership is the way to protect and contribute to the strengthening of the security of the whole Euro-Atlantic area. Russian President Vladimir Putin has backed up his proposal issued by the Chinese government on the first anniversary of Russia's special operation in Ukraine on February the 24th. The senior Russia joint statement read that China appreciates Russia's commitment to resume peace talks as soon as possible, and that both sides oppose the practice by any country or group of countries to seek advantages in the military or political areas to the detriment of the legitimate security interests of other nations, as well as unilateral sanctions unauthorized by the UN Security Council. Both parties also point out that to settle the Ukraine crisis, the security concerns of all countries must be respected, blood confrontation should be prevented, and fanning the flames must be avoided. Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu announced on Wednesday plans to modernize anti-missile defense systems in Moscow after a series of Ukrainian drone attacks on Russian territory. Shoigu said the army would also form an air defense division brigade that will be trained and equipped with new generation S-350 air-to-ground missile systems. Drone attacks on Russian territory, including Crimea, have increased in recent months, more than a year into the Kremlin's special military operation in Ukraine. Authorities in Crimea claimed on Wednesday that the Russian Navy had repelled a drone attack in the port of Sevastopol. Last month, a drone attempted to strike a facility in the Moscow region. The defense minister reiterated that developing air defense weapons was one of the army's priorities.
Development of the aerospace forces is to equip the troops with advanced air defense and anti-missile defense systems. This year we will complete the modernization of the Moscow anti-missile defense system. It is planned to form an air defense division and brigade, a special purpose anti-missile and air defense brigade, an anti-aircraft missile regiment with an S-350 complex, and a military transport aviation regiment.
The Russian Foreign Minister also warned that the use of armor-piercing ammunition, which contains depleted uranium, would sharply reduce Ukraine's ability to produce quality, uncontaminated food. The statements come after British Defense Minister Annabel Goldie announced the possible delivery of drill projectiles containing uranium.
Everyone remembers the results of using depleted uranium ammunition in NATO servicemen suffered the terrible effects. There has been a spike in cancer, other dangerous diseases. The soil has been contaminated for decades. If implemented, the use of depleted uranium ammunition will sharply reduce Ukraine's ability to produce uncontaminated quality food.
The Syrian-Russian Peace Initiative organized an event in Damascus to pay tribute to the martyrs of the military press who fell in the war against the terrorist groups. This event has become an annual tradition to honor the sacrifices made in the defense of Syria. Let's see.
The event coincided with the celebration of Mother's Day in Syria. The participants praised the brave women who, despite all the hardships they suffer as a result of the war and the blockade, do not hesitate to make all the necessary sacrifices, including their lives and their own children, in order to defend the sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity of their country.
This activity is part of the Syrian-Russian Peace Initiative and supports the work carried out after the earthquake in Aleppo and Latakia. In this context, we honor the memory of the martyrs, support their families, help the wounded, and give assistance to hospitals and schools.
This activity occurs at the same time with Mother's Days and Women's Days in Syria, and on this occasion we send our best regards for them, for making sacrifice, including the children, for defending Syria and to keep it firm, strong and resilient.
In addition to the families of the martyrs, the event honored Syrian and Russian officers and soldiers for their outstanding work both in the fight against terrorism and in consolidating and developing cooperation in the military field and other areas of common interest to Syria and Russia.
Today, through this activity, we confirm the strong relations between the two friendly countries and the close cooperation in all fields, including military, economic, cultural, humanitarian, and other fields and sectors.
This activity follows the recent visit of President to Moscow that opened up new ways of working together in various fields. And on this occasion, we thank the organizers of this activity and the other initiatives that contribute to consolidate bilateral cooperation between the two allies.
This joint Syrian-Russian activity, like many others, is proof of a strong alliance that unites Syria and Russia, two nations that, by honoring the memory of their fallen martyrs on Syrian soil, confirm their unity on the battlefield, not only in defense of the Arab country, but also in defense of world security, stability, and peace.
teleSUR Damascus, Syria.
teleSUR English continues to grow. You can now tune in from 33 different African countries through StarSat, dial 461 and enjoy our Latin American alternative broadcasts. One final short break and we'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back from the south. More than 400 rebels in Chad have been handed life sentences following the death of former ruler Idris Deby Itno, who was killed in 2021. According to N'Djamena's prosecutor, Mahamat El Habanana, the detainees were sentenced after a mass trial for acts of terrorism, mercenarism, recruitment of child soldiers, and assault in the head of state. The official did not give an exact number of those jailed, saying only that more than 400 were sentenced to life, while 24 others were acquitted. The trial opened last month behind closed doors at Klasum prison, 20 kilometers southeast of the capital. On Wednesday, the United Nations called on Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni to reject the anti-homosexuality law passed by Parliament. Ugandan MPs significantly amended the original text, which provided for up to 10 years in prison for anyone engaging in homosexual acts or claiming to be LGBTQ+. In a country where homosexuality was already illegal, the extent of the new penalties under the law was not immediately known. The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, called on Museveni not to enact the law. Uganda has strict anti-homosexuality legislation, a legacy of colonial laws, but since independence from the United Kingdom in 1962, there have been no prosecutions for consensual homosexual acts. The first major UN conference on water in 45 years got underway on Wednesday in New York with an urgent call to manage the precious resource. A report presented during the event revealed that 26% of the world's population does not have access to safe drinking water, while 46% lacks access to basic sanitation. The three-day conference will address issues related to the protection of aquatic ecosystems, the improvement of water resources, management, and increase of water reuse. On the other hand, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres detailed that society is draining the lifeblood of humanity through excessive and sustained water consumption.
This is more than a conference on water. It is a conference on today's world, seen from the perspective of its most important resource. This conference must represent a quantum leap in the capacity of member states and the international community to recognize and act upon the vital importance of water to our world's sustainability and as a tool to foster peace and international cooperation.
We need to invest in water infrastructure, including water storage, treatment, and distribution systems. Water management systems need to be built based on our needs, appropriate for our small scale and low population numbers, and appropriate to avoid damage to our ocean ecosystems.
Hundreds of people convened by the Water Forum marched to the Salvadoran Water Authority to demand that the government guarantee their access to water. In front of the entity's facilities, the demonstrators handed over a list of complaints to be investigated by the relevant authorities. The environmental and social organizations present at the activity also pointed out that the water legislation maintains a water injustice that has mainly affected the most impoverished communities since the end of 2021. In addition, leaders expressed that the purpose of the march is to highlight the reality of the country's aquifers. We have come to the end of this news brief. Before leaving, we have a special video on the occasion of World Water Day. The date celebrates the different ways water benefits our lives and explores how we can value water properly and safeguard it effectively for all. This animation, created by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, examines how water means different things to different people, to each person, to their home and family life, to their means of subsistence, their cultural practices, their well-being and their local environment, and raises the question, what does water mean to you? Stay tuned with teleSUR and join us on our socials. For teleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.
L'eau pour moi
我是马颖，来自中国。
المياه بالنسبة لي
El agua para mí
Water to me is life.
Humans, animals, plants all depend on water.
Water to me, well, it's everything.
It's our food, our energy, and even the clothes that we wear.
Water to me is a scarce resource. We need to use new technologies for rational use and water conservation.
We need to recycle used water to reduce water scarcity.
Water is fundamental to grow and produce our food.
We need to produce more with less water.
Water to me is fun. I like to play and swim in the water.
Water to me means sustainability. It keeps life on our planet in balance.
We need to keep the water clean to have a healthy life.
Water to me is a human right.
In my region, people struggle to get water.
We need to distribute water evenly and make it accessible to everyone.
We need to preserve water for the life of our planet. We have to start now.
We will always need water.